Yes.
Hot mic? Hot mic? No? Yes? Yes? Hot mic?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Attention. I'm kidding.
Person that tells us that our time is up.
What's up?
Oh, you said you wanted announcements.
Yes.
Hi guys, quick announcements just while we're waiting for the sessions to start about this evening's activities. So we have a candy swap later this evening. It is at 8 p.m. local. The link to the venue should be in the session schedule, so please take a look. It's about maybe a 10 or 15 minute tram ride, so give yourself plenty of time if you're going. It's at 8 p.m. Finger food only. Don't come for dinner. You'll only get dessert at a candy swap, okay? So we do recommend that please make sure that you feed yourselves and then come along after 8 p.m. to Gikarna. Space is limited. I think we have about a 50-person capacity. So do keep an eye on the Flock to Fedora Matrix chat channel. We will message in if the room fills up and there's limited space. So that's all. And very importantly, please bring your Fedora badge. Enjoy the EPEL talk.
I'm Troy Dawson.
Howdy, y'all. My name's Carl George.
I'm the EPEL Steering Committee Chair.
And I am the EPEL team lead inside the Community Linux Engineering team at Red Hat.
And this is our annual State of EPEL talk. What is the state of EPEL this year, Carl?
Lots of stats.
Lots of stats. You know, Matt didn't give you any stats, and I know a lot of you are stat deprived. And so I've come to fulfill using his old scripts. The first one, as usual, is Velociraptor. This is doing the actual IP hits that are coming to Fedora. It's not as good as the new thing, but for the old things, EPEL 5 through 9, it's good enough. They are no longer counting EPEL 10 or any of the Fedora things after Fedora 48. So this slide's going to get outdated after a little bit. As we can see, go to the next one. I like the others. As we can see, EPEL 7 is still our lead thing. It's only been expired for about a year. So it's starting to go down. It's not into the, does that say 35 million or 3,500,000? I think it says 3,500,000. I should put dots on those things. So it's starting to come down. And as we see, what side am I on? 9 is starting to go up. 8's sort of leveled off. 8's the purple thing. To be honest, it's okay, even though 8 was my first distribution that I did with RHEL, but 9's better, and 10 is even better. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, you'll notice that we see 8 and 9. 10 is actually out. I was using Matt's scripts to do things, and 10 is so low right now. It's in about 10,000 users in EPEL, and it kept just dropping it off. It says that's too low. That's not even a blip in the thing. So you won't see 10 on either of these. But this is using
Go ahead, say the name.
Brontosaurus Sapphire. It's a little easier than Velociraptor. Brontosaurus Sapphire. Okay. But looking at that, we actually do have about 3 million with EPEL 8. And 9 has got this uptick. We'll see if it stays that way. I know where that's coming from, and I'm curious if it's going to stay, but I'm not going to tell you. So next year, if 9 continues to have this nice fast track, then I'll probably tell you where it's coming from. But if it just goes away, then I won't.
Is it people going straight from 7 to 9? Is
No.
that your theory?
No. I did see where this actually is coming from. But I'm not going to name names or anything. So those of you in this room that know who it is, sorry, I'm not going to tell you. Next one. Yep. And this is just an easier way to see that 9 is, I keep forgetting we're going the other way. 9 is starting to eat 8's numbers. And that's fine. 9 is a good distribution. I like 9.
And this is still the IP-based one?
No. Brontosaurus Sapphire is
Count Me?
Is Count Me, yes. Sorry, yeah. And again, 10 is here, but it's so small that it keeps getting just bumped off the thing. So 10, again, is 10,000 as opposed to 2 million. Now, this is fun. So this is the number of packages, not how many downloads. This is the number of packages.
Source packages in Koji.
Source packages. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. Source packages. Now, the fun thing is this is the first time you see the blue is EPEL 9. Blue finally passed EPEL 7. EPEL 7 has been the standard. Has been around the longest. 6 never got up to even close to as many packages.
It's also end of life now.
That's
for
true.
For a year now.
For a year, but I kept it on this chart just to show that 9 has finally passed 7 as far as the source RPMs in EPEL. Now, these little things are when 9 was released. This is when RHEL 9 was released. We had a whopping 2,617 packages when 9 was released. And we thought that was great. And we marked it through all the things because when 8 was released, well, this is when 8 was released, that was 0. We had 0 packages for 6 months. It was bad. When 7 was released, we didn't quite have this amount of numbers. Anyway, so this is the last time you're going to see 7. But when 7 was released, it was about as 9. Now, let's look over at 10. We go over to 10. So we hit 2,600, like, what was that, 8 months before RHEL 10 was released? When RHEL 10 was released, we had 5,431 packages. Thank you. Not just me and Carl. Jeez,
You're in the top 10.
Yes, still.
I'm not. I'm top 20.
You're top 20. But thank you, all of you EPEL contributors who've helped to make these numbers possible. It's helped us. It's helped a lot of end users. Thank you very much. This number's for when RHEL 10 was released, 5,431. That was a lot. Mm-hmm. And thank you. It was great. This is the last time you're going to see this chart like this because we're going to have to redo it just because 10 releases is really throwing me off. I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, whose idea was it to add minor versions to it?
It was...
We'll get into that. Foreshadowing.
Yep.
Storytelling technique.
Yep. I think it was all of our idea.
Sure.
It was only instigated by one person. Okay, this is the other number that I really like, is the number of maintainers, because this is how we judge the health of EPEL, is by the number of maintainers. Now, you'll see the blue, the little thin lines are the individual things, and the blue, which is thick, shows the number of maintainers, and it sort of drops each time. Wait a sec. How do I? Totals per date and total overall. Okay, that's right. So each date time, we do this every 6 months. We check this every 6 months. And we see how many is there at that date. And you'll notice that it drops whenever, like, EPEL 7 went away. There was a lot of maintainers dropped, and EPEL 6 and all that. But then we look at how many unique maintainers we've had overall. And that's where the orange one is. And that's always been going up. So even though we lose some maintainers, we also get more that keep filling things in. And we expected this EPEL 7 drop, but you notice, if you can, it's a little hard to see, that we're on an upward trajectory still. So we're still gaining maintainers, even though some people built things for 7 and they've gone a few years ago. We're still getting newer and newer people. And that's one of the things I am very grateful for in EPEL, is that this is another one of our health metrics, and I feel that we're still a very healthy thing. Despite that drop, we expected it, we're still going up.
Ready?
Yep. Okay. Oh, this is the other health one, which I don't know if it's healthy or not.
The trend is not in the positive direction.
This trend is not in the positive. Rust has sort of thrown all my metrics out the door. Number of packages. You can see again, EPEL 9 has passed EPEL 7. Source packages. Number of maintainers. It's sort of interesting that we have 241 EPEL 10 maintainers maintaining more packages than EPEL 8, which has had 511. All of you packaging Rust, thank you very much, because you guys, wow, the number of...
Thanks, Fabio.
Yes. All you guys. Well, actually, there's a couple others, but Fabio, yeah, you are now as far... He's number 1, right? Can I name names? Now that it's not me, I can name names.
Yes, it's not bragging.
Yes, it's no longer bragging. Anyway, yeah, this has been a health metric we've had, and Rust sort of threw this metric out the door. So, anyway.
What we really need to do is keep getting the package number up, but get the maintainer number up also, so the packages per maintainer is lower.
Yes, but Rust keeps adding more and more modules. Go did finally start bundling. I saw that as a change proposal. So, anyway, all of you maintainers, again, I've said it like 4 times, but I'm very grateful for you. Thank you very much. Let's go for the next one. EPEL 8. Has anything changed in EPEL 8, Carl?
Not really. It's going strong, and it will be end of life the same as RHEL 8, May 2029.
May 2029.
That's really all we have to say about it.
Yep, that's a long ways from now. EPEL 9.
So that's a little bit sooner date for something relevant. We have EPEL 9 next, if you're familiar with that. That's actually going to go end of life the same time as CentOS Stream 9, which is May 2027. But then regular EPEL 9 keeps going for the full RHEL 9 life cycle till May 2032.
2032.
So that's really the only relevant stuff we have for those.
Yep.
The interesting stuff, what people are probably here to hear about, is EPEL 10.
Well, let's hit the button. EPEL 10. Carl, is there anything exciting about EPEL 10?
Nope, it's boring.
Oh, okay.
So, in case you hadn't heard, EPEL 10 is a thing now. We have implemented minor versions in EPEL 10 now, which is something that's been tossed around as an idea in the EPEL community for a long time, and we finally made it happen. It took a lot of work. Took some external factors too, but it's EPEL built for every minor version of RHEL, including CentOS Stream 10 as the leading minor version. And we'll get into that in some charts in a minute, some diagrams. So, but to explain that better, I should do this visual representation of how EPEL used to work.
Do you want to swap me places? Or do you not like?
Closer to the notes.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to ever point at things?
Yes. Be my Vanna White. No. So to represent how EPEL 10 is different, I'm going to show these diagrams. Basically, EPEL 7 started shortly after RHEL 7 launched, and just the solid blue line here, single branch, was built against the solid red lines up there, just the current minor versions of RHEL. So it was built alongside those minor versions, but because it only had the single branch and always bumped to the next minor version, it was effectively major version only. Those packages, those resulting packages, would be used on both RHEL and CentOS Linux and other derivatives like that, and that mostly worked. I say mostly because those rebuilds would follow behind RHEL by about a month. And the reason it mostly worked, while RHEL is very stable, it's not frozen completely. Sometimes there are library changes between those minor versions. And in this model, back in the 7 days, whenever one of those a library would change in RHEL, some EPEL packages would become uninstallable, or they'd even block upgrades of other packages, which wasn't great. The maintainer could either rebuild it immediately to fix the problem for RHEL users and then break it for CentOS users, or they could leave it broken for RHEL users until CentOS caught up. Neither answer was good, but because there was no good solution, we basically just kind of ignored it and said, it'll be eventually consistent in about a month. EPEL 8 started out the same way. Launched a little bit later after RHEL 8, just because of a few factors, mostly modularity, some other stuff. Won't get into that.
Yeah.
Don't need another therapy session. But then a little bit after that, CentOS Stream launched, and that basically takes over as the major version branch of RHEL. And we had this interesting problem where we still wanted to use EPEL packages on it, but instead of CentOS being a month behind RHEL, now it was about 6 months ahead of RHEL. So that was a bigger gap and harder to ignore when there was a library difference that came up. So a little later into RHEL 8's lifecycle, we launched EPEL 8 Next. And the idea there was, without disturbing existing EPEL workflows, we wanted to give maintainers a way to build against CentOS Stream when it was appropriate. Like for, say, a different Qt version or libllvm or any of those things that sometimes change between minor versions. The idea was that it wouldn't be just a completely separate EPEL, but rather a layer on top of EPEL for CentOS users. So you'd have RHEL and EPEL, and then CentOS Stream plus EPEL Next. That solved the basic problem. It made it where maintainers could create a different build. And I mentioned we implemented that without disturbing existing EPEL workflows. It was optional, and maintainers didn't have to know about it. They could just keep building in EPEL 8, and 9 times out of 10, or even more, they wouldn't even need to use it. Their packages would just work because of how overall stable RHEL itself is. For EPEL 9, we took a new approach. Separate from that problem, there was another problem of just the package availability. Some of the charts Troy showed earlier about EPEL 8 lagging real far behind on packages being available. We started EPEL 9 about 5 months before RHEL 9 in an attempt to solve that. Because really, the only way to solve that is just give the community maintainers more time to add packages. We could just, throwing more people at the problem would only get us so far. And, hiring budgets aren't unlimited, unfortunately. So the best answer is just, make it available and then call to action to the community. So that's what we did.
I was going to say, it's also a community-oriented thing.
Yes.
If Red Hat threw people at it, then it wouldn't be as community.
Very
I don't
true.
get paid to do KDE, and you don't get paid to do packages.
I get paid to work on EPEL overall.
Yes.
Specific packages, no. You're right.
Yes.
So yeah, the idea was like, how do we enable the community to do more things and have packages ready? From the Red Hat business perspective, paying people to work on EPEL was more about, we have constant complaints about, say, I'm not upgrading from RHEL 7 to RHEL 8 because these packages in EPEL that I know are unsupported aren't available yet. We wanted to, the business side, they wanted to remove that as an excuse not to upgrade RHEL versions because being on an older version makes the customer harder to support in general. So that was kind of the justification to create the team that I'm on now. So that was the first thing we did on that team was we started driving like, how do we start EPEL 9 now? Let's not wait. And the way to do that was we initially built EPEL 9 against CentOS Stream 9, and then we switched it to RHEL 9 when that was available. We were in the community telling people that CentOS Stream is, a preview of the upcoming minor version of RHEL, and this was our chance to prove it. We're going to build against CentOS Stream, and then it's going to work on RHEL 9.0 because it's, a minor version ahead. And to my knowledge, we didn't have a single bug report about incompatibilities because of that approach. So it basically worked.
Yep.
We still had the minor version problem after that, so we also made EPEL 9 next, same as in 8. It just kind of worked like this, where we switched which one EPEL 9 was building against. But after that point, they were still separate branches. And that's when we started really thinking about the problems that we had with EPEL Next. It was often mistaken as a standalone repo. Some maintainers and users thought like, okay, well, this is the EPEL I used for CentOS, and this is the one I used for RHEL, and why is this one not installing right? And they needed to be used together. There was a decision process for maintainers when they needed to use it, and we had no inheritance between, if you built a package in EPEL 9 Next, you also had to rebuild it in EPEL 9 6 months later, which for some things like Troy's KDE stack is a very big task.
Yep. I also had the problem of the delay. I had to decide when to release the KDE. I could build it fast, and then all the RHEL people were happy, but then then the Alma and Rocky people were not happy, or vice versa.
So yeah, that was the observations we had about it, and we started thinking about EPEL 10, and we realized that EPEL Next was really just a subpar bolt-on solution tacked on after the fact, and it was a roundabout way to target 2 minor versions at the same time. So we decided the path forward is just to fully embrace minor versions, which is what we're doing in EPEL 10 now. EPEL maintainers are Fedora maintainers, so we looked at Fedora branching for inspiration. A new Fedora major versions branched from Rawhide, so Rawhide's a preview of the next major version. Like right now, Rawhide identifies as Fedora 43. Similarly, new RHEL minor versions come off of the CentOS Stream major version, so CentOS Stream's a preview of the next RHEL minor version. There's a lot of similarities there, and so we just modeled EPEL 10 after that. The main EPEL 10 branch builds against CentOS Stream 10, continuously, not just at first, and then we'll have separate EPEL 10.0, 10.1 branches that build against the corresponding versions of RHEL. Builds that get done on that main branch, like if you built a package here, it just showed up in EPEL 10.0, just getting tagged into it. Similar to Fedora, if you add a new package to Fedora today, by default it's in Rawhide only. You have to go back and ask for the Fedora 42 branch if you want to put it in there also, or the Fedora 41 branch.
So as an example, use my KDE example. I built the KDE on the CentOS Stream branch. When RHEL 10 came out, it was there. I didn't have to do any last-minute rebuilds. It just came right out, and it was pretty slick.
We have 5 minutes left. We should go quicker and get Q&A.
Okay, let's go quick.
All right. So that is how that's working. We launched it in December, about 6 months ago. We also had a soft launch period before we announced it, starting at Flock last year in August, to give maintainers even more time to prepare their packages. So instead of announcing it with 0 packages, we were actually able to launch it with 10,000 packages, source packages, from about 3,600 source packages. And then by the time of the RHEL 10 launch, which was last month, we were up to 17,000 packages from about 5,400 source packages, like Troy mentioned earlier. So that was really exciting. Lots of patting on the back all around. We were very happy with how that turned out. And like Troy has said a couple times, we couldn't have done it without the EPEL maintainer community. I definitely did not build 17,000 packages myself, not even close. I was responsible for a very small percentage of that. Troy a little bit more, just because KDE has a lot of sprawl with the dependencies.
Yeah, but nowadays it's a small percentage.
Come and join us on Saturday. We are having an EPEL Hackfest here at Flock. Some of the topics we're going to have, we'll have an initial Q&A section. The idea there is Fedora contributors that are already working in Fedora and are new to EPEL or want to get involved in EPEL. That is your time. It's explicitly geared to how do I get started, from Fedora to EPEL and get involved there. We'll also do some early EPEL 11 planning, talking about what we should do to keep improving things. What's our next step to make things better? Probably not as big changes as 10, but
hopefully not.
Probably the theme will be starting even earlier somehow. And also policy revisions, documentation, all fun things like that. It'll be pretty free form. Those are just kind of rough topics to get us started. Maybe some package reviews. You want to talk about the desktops a little?
Yes. Being the KDE guy, I get a lot of questions. The biggest one is why are there no other desktops other than KDE? Because RHEL10 has no X11. Wow, that was opposite of what I meant to say. There is no X11 in RHEL10.
No Xorg server. The desktop folks will get after you for that.
Oh, good, because that is a very distinct point. But Xorg server itself is not there. And that means a lot of the desktops that we've had have been X11 based. KDE is Wayland, GNOME is Wayland. I know some of the others, XFCE is working on it, and LXQT is working on it, but they aren't there yet. I just wanted to let people know that's the answer to the question you keep asking me.
And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more too. Just like any other packet, other desktops can be added, but just like any other package, the dependencies have to be available as well. If your desktop depends on Xorg server, somebody could add Xorg server to EPEL 10. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. But there is a lot of demand, and so far, 0 volunteers. So if that is something that is important to you, you can step up and maintain. There's nothing stopping people from adding Xorg server to EPEL 10. And I know that it does build. I actually tried to build it, and then I quickly deleted the copper because I don't want anyone to come to me with issues for it.
No.
So the alternative is work with those desktops upstream to improve their Wayland support. I know one example, XFCE, they did a release with experimental support for Wayland. And talking to the XFCE maintainer, Kevin, he doesn't feel comfortable adding that to EPEL 10 with just the experimental label. So maybe when XFCE does a release where they drop that label, maybe we'll add that to EPEL 10. That's probably the closest one to getting added. But if you're involved in upstream development, start hammering on their Wayland issues and help get that sorted out so we can have more desktops available for people that like doing things different.
Or there's plenty of Wayland desktops in Fedora. Bring them over. I would love Cosmic.
Sway probably could get added. That's a Wayland desktop.
Oh, actually, I think it is. Oh, sorry, you've got the button.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, we're out of time. KDE 6.3. We do have Qt 5.15 in EPEL 10. It's going to stay there as long as Fedora supports Qt 5. Whatever. I'm not going to go to insane lengths, but a lot of people still want Qt 15. And that's all I'll have to say. We're short on time, so. We just had our second EPEL steering committee.
Second ever.
Voting. So congratulations to Michael Lind. Wait, why did I?
Michelle.
Well, first off, Michelle Lind is taking a break. So congratulations to Robbie Oh my goodness. Calicote. I just realized I've never pronounced his last name. Calicote was elected to replace Michelle. All the others, which would be Neil and Devada, are still there. So congratulations to that.
Real quick, if there's a package you want in EPEL 10 that's not in EPEL 9 or that's in EPEL 8 but not EPEL 9, so on, you can go to epel.io/request. We have a guide about how to file a bug for that with templates and everything to communicate with the maintainer and get it added.
And we're at questions and answers.
A minute over, but I guess there's 5 minutes till the next session.
Yeah.
So maybe 1 or 2 questions?
We got one right in the front.
With the new branching in EPEL 10, do the package maintainers have to build for every single branch, or is there automation for that?
There's not automation, so just like Fedora, it's up to you which ones you want to build in. We're doing mass branching, so that way if you started early enough, if you requested an EPEL 10 branch like in December, then you automatically got an EPEL 10.0 branch, and we also tagged the builds in. The EPEL 10.0 builds, we tagged them into 10.1. So there's a little bit there to help maintainers along. We don't actually do a mass rebuild like Fedora does, but that's something we could look at in the future or some better way to tag things forward.
Yeah, because it's if you've got a CVE, you suddenly have twice as, like within a year or so, you're going to have twice as many builds to do. The only EPEL packages I maintain are the ones I've been bullied into maintaining, and I don't need the extra work. So
It is,
with
you
all
are
the
empowered to tell people, no, I only want to do this
no,
in the
it's
leading
not.
branch.
That was good. Like, I've had things where people have gone about my back and branched for me, or said, I will maintain the branch, so I branch it and assign the
Yes, to be fair,
maintainership to them.
you can't just block it, but you can say, I don't have time for this, I can add co-maintainers. That's one of the two things.
But
generally.
like, I've had situations where I've had someone said I'll co-maintain it, and literally 2 weeks after that I've branched it and assigned it to them, they orphan it, reassign it back to me, and I'm stuck with the branch. So
can retire
like,
the branch.
a lot of the EPEL stuff is quite aggressive in the way people want to do it.
That is something we should delve into further at the Hackfest, because that's like, when we have another process called the stalled maintainer thing, where if you don't respond in time, I think we started that at 2 weeks, and then because people thought it was too fast, we bumped it out to 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm open to like making that even longer or shorter, however people want to go with it.
Because there's like some packages that, like, because of the length of EPEL, don't make sense to be an EPEL because they're already dead.
100%.
But yeah, I've had situations where it's like, this doesn't make sense to be an EPEL, and there's no communication. It's just feels like a bully process.
Yeah, we definitely don't want maintainers to feel like that. At the same time, the other side of that coin is that we don't really own packages. It is, packages that we are currently maintaining. So we want to strike a good balance between, I don't have time for this, but enabling other people to do it. So we're still working on that balance. Come talk to us more about it at the Hackfest.
That does bring up a good point, though, in that a lot of times there's no real need to rebuild the packages because RHEL is stable ABI, right? So by the time you get to RHEL 1010 and you've got all of these branches, it's horribly tedious. Why not have...
So we won't have all the branches for one, yeah.
Because you said something that I wanted to comment
Yeah.
on. You don't, go back to the branching thing. Once something has been, you'll only be doing 2.
Okay. So
Because then they go back to archive.
There's a very short time where there'll be 3, right before the branch.
Oh, wait, that's way too
So
far.
even if there's 3, though, I mean,
Well,
why not
yeah,
just have a button to...
Well,
there's a scripted
is there-
way to then...
Let me ask you this. Is there a button in Fedora to do that?
No, but there's a very big difference between Fedora releases where everything changes and
I see what you're saying.
minor version bumps.
You
So
are correct. My answer is we're brand new at doing minor versions, and we're actively working on how do we make this better. And that's one of the things I want to talk about at the Hackfest. Come to the Hackfest with us. This is a great question. Not enough time to
just
get
a
into all
future
of the
enhancement
examples.
thought. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think it'd be too much work.
The other thing I want to comment on, we're not going to have the 10 we're not going to have the 10 branches simultaneously. Whenever like RHEL 10.1 comes out, the 10.0 branch is going to go to the archive. So it'll be ideally, generally 2 branches at a time, and then a very short period where you'll have 3. Similar to Fedora, where like, F43 will get branched, and then we'll have 42, 43, and 44, and then just 43 and 44.
What about LTS RHEL, though? Because
You mean EUS?
yeah, like,
So, yeah.
We
at least in 9 it was like the even numbers.
Yeah, we explicitly left that out of this initially, but it is set up where at any point we could make EUS branches opt-in for maintainers, and that's also something I want to talk about at the Hackfest.
yeah.
Yeah, right now there is no EUS EPEL at all.
Yep.
think
We
we're
are
getting
out
kicked
of
out.
time. Thank you for the questions, because yes, those are things we need to bring up. And we'll talk to you next year. Well, at the Hackfest. And
Yes,
then next
we'll talk
year.
to you Saturday.
Who's after us? Me. You. Good for you.
Good, we weren't bullying a stranger. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's my phone. It's like, hey, look, there's a time changer. Yeah, whenever we ask for an hour, we don't get any questions. Whenever we ask.
Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. My name is David Cantrell. Wow, this is neat. Normally we do this where we look back at the screen. Yeah, so this is Fedora and RISC-V, and people saw this in the schedule, and a lot of people came up to me and said, "Why are you giving that presentation?" So I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I'm actually covering for Isaac Shute, who's from the Linux Foundation. He couldn't be here, but this is a presentation that he generally does at Flock, and so this is not my presentation. You can read these later, but Isaac asked me kind of last minute, could you just run through this? I'm a longtime developer in open source. I'm interested in RISC-V, but I don't work on it day to day. So what I told him, I said, my hope is that I can, give your presentation with the perspective of someone who has been doing Linux development for a long time. And he said, yes, that's kind of exactly what I wanted. But don't worry, we have some experts here who have RISC-V details that we will get to later. So if you've seen this before, I apologize. It's kind of, like I said, the same thing that he does. This is basically going through RISC-V, why Red Hat cares about this, and specifically Red Hat's interest in Fedora in this, and then where things are right now. And by right now, I mean like a year ago, I think, because the slides are kind of old. So anyways, what? Yeah, exactly, yes, yeah. Okay, so for those who don't know, RISC-V is a new instruction set architecture, kind of carrying forward from MIPS. It's open, it's all under Creative Commons, and it's CPUs. Yeah, there we go. All right, so many cores, all kinds of stuff. What's really cool is this is in use right now. So like NVIDIA and Western Digital and companies are actually using RISC-V right now. So this is not a theoretical thing. This is actually in real use. And you can get like developer boards and single board computers and stuff like that, like the ARM environment that are RISC-V, and you can do development work. And there's other stuff coming down the pipeline, which is important. So we have, let's see, the technical working groups. I didn't really care about this slide, but this is just stuff that Isaac wanted people to know about, and how this is evolving as an open instruction set architecture. And if you really care about that, you can get involved now, which is kind of cool. Let's see. Hardware and ISO standardization, profiles, Okay, so if you were at the FESCO session earlier, I mentioned a thing that I talked to Isaac about this, where I hope that RISC-V doesn't make the mistake that MIPS and ARM has made, where we don't get kind of like reference hardware platform designs, and we get sort of this fragmented market. And he assured me that that's not going to happen, which, I mean, he kind of has to, but I've heard from other people too that this is a thing that's going to happen. We're going to actually get workstations and enterprise class hardware. So that, to me, is kind of exciting, because we never really saw that with MIPS. We didn't really see that with ARM. I mean, ARM, to me, like, we did some really cool things with ARM, but like if you look going back to, like, say the 90s, ARM was always sort of this like savior platform that would come along and was like the answer to all of our problems at any given time. And you can look back and see different efforts where we put a lot of we put a lot of effort into doing something with ARM, and then we realized, well, gosh, there's no standard platform. It doesn't run as fast as we want it to. All kinds of problems like that. So I look at RISC-V as kind of wanting to achieve what ARM was aiming to do, and the bonus is, it's open, like actually open. Okay, so Red Hat. Why does Red Hat care about this? Well, Red Hat dumped a lot of money into ARM and was really interested in that. And RISC-V kind of stands to, I guess, continue that interest or whatever. But this RISE project here, which is the RISC-V software ecosystem, I think is how that expands, which is weird. So founding member and their, what?
It's like what Linaro wants to be, what Linaro is to ARM, RISE is to RISC-V.
Exactly, yes, thank you, yes. So this is really important, and for what I would say with RISC-V right now is we're kind of like, this is me as a developer kind of on the edge of this. We're at this point where we need a mature software ecosystem for this platform for there to be an interest in making enterprise class and workstation class hardware. So it's like a chicken and egg problem. So Red Hat looks to Fedora to be the leader in that effort in this space, and we're doing that, and it's really cool. So you can get involved now with like some of the hardware that's out there, and participate in this group. And then this, I don't even know if I was allowed to show this, but hey, they sent it to me. So this is how Red Hat views the relationship between the open source community, Fedora, CentOS Stream, and Red Hat. So anyways, the point here is like they know Fedora is where this work needs to happen right now. And that's going to flow into CentOS Stream and flow into RHEL. So rather than doing this all on the Red Hat side of the house, they know that investing in this now and pushing this in Fedora is the right thing to do, which I gotta say is pretty cool for a company because so many would do this backwards, I think. They would try to do it behind closed doors and then say we're going to make it open, and that just never really works right. Okay, so this is the old slide. I'm going to skip it for now. Yeah, let me just get to the end here. I can't remember. Right, yeah. So this is just, okay. So, I'm sorry, what? Yes, Cash App. Yes. So I'm going to turn it over to Cash App here, who works at Red Hat on RISC-V and had reached out to me and is going to provide excellent current information on this platform and where things stand in Fedora. So please.
I didn't plan to do this actually. I only saw his abstract and I was curious. So my name is Kashka. I work on Fedora and my name is Kashka and I work on enabling RISC-V for Fedora, so all things RISC-V, and also work with the upstream RISE project, also the ISA specification layer, but my special interest is hypervisors, so that's a small side thing. This talk was titled Fedora and RISC-V. So Fedora right now, 42 images are available for 4 actually, development boards that are important and what reasonably, I wouldn't call widely available, they're available. Sci-Fi is one of the main vendors that, sorry, I just need to get some water. Yeah, Sci-Fi is one of the vendors that we work with, and most of the Fedora's RISC-V enablement happens on the metrics channel, Fedora RISC-V metrics, and 41, 40, compared to previous 2 releases, the number of unresolved dependencies, as some of you may know, that whether a given package and all its dependencies can be resolved within that same repository, the number of these unresolved dependencies have reduced drastically compared to 40, 41, and 42. I actually have, I presented some of the Fedora porting efforts at RISC-V Summit 2 weeks ago, so I can link to the abstract and more of the details to those who are interested, so catch me in the hallway. What else, actually? What about, how many packages of Fedora build on RISC-V today? Well, 99% of them built just fine, more than 24,000 of them. There's a small selection of them, like tricky ones, the high-hanging fruits, so LLVM, kernel, some Erlang, and bits like these. So they require more work, and we're working with those upstreams. For example, when I was at the RISC-V Summit 2 weeks ago, and an LLVM developer walked up to me, there's a poster session. So RISC-V Summit is a slightly different format, at least the European variant, than traditional conferences, like if you've been at Linux Foundation or even Flock. So the first day, they have this idea of poster session, so I gave this poster session, and this LLVM developer walked up to me and saw LLVM on that, happy to help debug the failures that we pointed out. So we were working with different upstreams to sort out the rest of the packages in Fedora. What else, actually? The RISE, yeah, sorry, the RISE ecosystem. So the person who's supposed to give the presentation works for the RISE initiative. So RISE is, as I was mentioning, it's the equivalent of, or wants to be an equivalent of Linaro to ARM. So I think most of you here would know what is Linaro here, right? Anybody? Don't know what's Linaro? So Linaro is a consortium organization where a group of companies come together and provide some funding to port software to ARM. That was a while ago, and now it's dwindling down, I guess. No more required because ARM is widely available enough. And on RISC-V, for the RISE initiative, there is some funding available right now for developers, community developers who want to port their software to RISC-V. It depends on the complexity of the work. For small contributions, there's, I think, 500 euros. Very like simple integration of like changing the spec file, making sure it integrates well, and it builds. And there's for more complex efforts, there is more, 2,000 euros, something like that. It's all documented publicly. So if you want your software, the requirement is open source, of course, and the open source software, not commercial. And two, if your employer is a member of RISC-V International, then you're not eligible. So that's the only thing. That's a fair comment, I guess. So, how much time we got? There's active work. Most of the active work happens in the Fedora Matrix channel. So come find us if you're interested to work with that. And the most powerful board right now, we're working with the Sci-Fi's P550. And there's a couple of other boards available that are a bit more widely available, widely accessible. Vision 5.2 it's called. So it takes a bit longer to compile packages, some of them. But it's still, most of it it's not, these are not toy boards. You can still do reasonable development work, and most of my development is done on one of these boards that's on my desk. And we're also trying to get some of these machines accessible to Fedora packagers in the build system. So working with Fedora infrastructure folks to make sure we have packagers can just submit their software to build. But there is some more work to be figured out. This needs to be racked, these machines. They're not like traditional big rackable servers yet, but they're good enough that you can have remote power control and what's the other one? Serial console, that's it, thank you. So yeah, remote power control and serial console access, that's good enough to start with. What else? Yeah, I didn't prepare, so this is really off the cuff.
I'd like to add something to the thing you mentioned about building.
Yeah.
So yeah, where things stand right now with Fedora 42 and the number of things that build is actually really impressive to me. I mean, this has come a long way, but as everyone knows, building packages is but one part of a mature software ecosystem. This is not NetBSD. We don't ship it after it compiles with no errors. We need to actually have people running it. So people that are, wanting to try this out as like maybe a daily driver, or maybe, try it out for like a week and, see what works, because that's going to be the next big step in getting Fedora really mature on this platform, is having people willing to sit down and use it. And it is more accessible now as hardware becomes more available. If you're serious about doing this, I'm sure that Isaac or others can make things happen if you want to get your hands on hardware. But that's the, it doesn't stop with just building or porting. But
if you have a software or ports and need access to build it, open source software, you can just ping me. I'm happy to hook you up with the RISC initiative folks. We can give you access to build the software.
yeah. Oh yeah. We have a microphone for questions. And then, Cash up.
Yeah, just one quick one, actually. You might know the answer to, hopefully. I know last year the Fedora kernel changes were pushed into kernel ARC, and everything was great. What I'm curious about, though, is I have not seen any updates or anything else, any changes to configs. Of course, I set configs as they come in, even for RISC-V specific stuff. But my real question is what shipped with Fedora 42, the kernel arc kernel or the Fedora 42 kernel dist-git as it is, or are there changes there that are not being tracked in kernel arc?
There are non-upstream changes for some of these kernel packages. So I don't work directly on the kernel. I only built it once, I guess. So I can hook you up with the person who works on the kernel itself. So, but it is not fully, not the traditional default unmodified upstream source. So there is some modifications required. But it is close enough, actually, close enough to Fedora 42 kernel. But I don't recall the details top of the head for kernel. For LLVM, I can tell, but not.
No, that's fine. I'd like for those changes not to get lost, so that as this does go from a alternative architecture as it is to essentially a primary architecture, that work is done and being tracked over time.
Oh, absolutely. That will obviously. Number one goal is to make sure all the changes, Fedora's goal, as you know, as close upstream as possible.
Right.
So that's just by default and the manner we're trying to work towards. So any patch that belongs upstream will be upstream. We may carry in Fedora a patch that is not in the current latest upstream release. So it may come like 6 months later. So it will come by a future rebase of that given package.
Right.
But that's just still upstream. Or it's posted on the list, but you want to build a RISC-V image for a specific board,
right.
You can carry that. It's available.
That's one of the things. So there's the ARM working group, and before that there was really kind of Peter Robinson doing stuff for ARM. And one of the things that we did, so I've got a policy, I don't take things unless they're upstream. But upstream doesn't necessarily have to mean in Linus's tree. It can mean it's in the ARM tree staged for the next version.
Yeah, there's a Linux RISC-V list as well, so a lot of board enablement, driver enablement happens there as well. The Sci-Fi works actively there, and most of the hardware vendors that have shipped some silicon have their patches being upstream. Some vendors are very good at upstreaming, others have challenges. So. Yeah, but if you're interested in the kernel side more, come to the metrics channel or catch me in the hallway. We can hook you up with the right person who's more detailed working at that in a fine-grained manner.
Thank you. Just wondering, you mentioned a couple of vending packages when you tried to first port the whole thing to RISC-V, like LLVM. What was the issue, or what were the issues rather? ISA support or compiler support in general, or?
Great question. LLVM has 4 or 5 different test suites, complex test suites, some graphic enablement, and some AI ML processing stuff as well. So these are usually failures in these layers. Or RISC-V vector extension. I don't know if you heard of RVV. So that
I'm roughly familiar with it. Yeah. So essentially, other extensions was the issue.
It's not an issue. It's just some of these tests that are failing, they don't make sense on RISC-V hardware. Some of the hardware, at least, we were trying to build for. So I talked to an LLVM upstream developer, and he said, when he looked at some of the failures that I listed, I wrote like a 2-page abstract. I can link you to that if you're interested. There are more details in the LLVM there with the failures, categorized by the specific upstream test suite. So he said some of them can be fixed, the maintainer said. So these look to be not super serious issues, just need to have a run through of them and make sure that nothing super serious is being skipped. So we can skip this bunch of failures for some of these test suites. Okay. If you're interested in more specific details of the specific failures, I can link you to it after the talk. I have
sure.
them. I have it's available on my Fedora People page as well, so I'm tracking them live.
Final question from my side. What about GCC? That checked out in contrast to LLVM, or?
What about GCC? What's the question about?
We're able to build it.
Does it build it?
Yes, in contrast to LLVM.
Yes, it does build. It does build.
Okay.
I don't know how many non-upstream patches or other patches still waiting to be upstreamed are in it, but GCC builds, and it builds faster than LLVM. LLVM takes about 20 hours on the most powerful board right now. GCC 6-7 hours, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But yes, GCC builds as well.
And your main compiler of choice is probably GCC in contrast to LLVM?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah,
so
or CLang.
one more thing I forgot to mention is RISC-V has specifications. As you know, RVA is the term they use. RVA 22 was the last, RVA 23 was the most recently ratified specification. Ratified meaning frozen. So that's the spec based on which hardware vendors produce new hardware, new silicon. So we're waiting for that, and that will come in the next 1-ish, 2 years, a bit less. And currently, GCC builds based on the previously frozen specification, which is RVA 22. So yes, GCC is what is currently being used.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you. Thanks for the great presentation. I'm just curious, I work on CI, and obviously this is RISC-V is a bootstrapping phase, like trying to even build stuff. So I definitely will be involved somehow when we come to testing. How long do you see now from your perspective, knowing a lot about the ecosystem, how long will it take until we will have easily accessible hardware for CI and for testing? You know, like something like a public cloud vendor which would be providing something like machines and so on. Like how long do you see it could take?
So CI machines in Fedora infrastructure. So the question is
yes,
about,
of course.
All right. That's a good question. Right now, I'm working with the Fedora infrastructure folks, Kevin Fenzi and others, to make sure we have some build machines available so packagers can initially get started. There is already a RISC-V-koji.fedoraproject.org available, the Koji profile available, but we need some more build machines. So very soon, just keep an eye on it. These machines, as I was just saying, the current machines that are reasonable enough to build and test, they are not traditionally big rackable machines, but they can be put into racks with small units, and you can get serial control and the remote power. That's good enough to build it for data centers. So just keep an eye. And if you are really burning to build some really important package, for example, if you're working on the current hot stuff, AI and ML related packages, and you want to build something, so come talk to us. We can hook you up with good hardware where you can do the build at least.
It's not enough for CI. Like for CI, I need to provision basically.
Yes, for CI provisioning, it will take
right.
for CI provisioning time frame. I can't give a specific time frame, but
yeah.
a bit more than a year at least, maybe around a year-ish. But before that, packages can still build stuff in the.
Of course, thank you.
Is there any hardware accelerated video encoding decoding on this platform?
You mean HDMI kind of a thing? Hardware?
No. I mean
accelerated
like
encoding and decoding. No,
H264 or like the video codecs, for example.
I am not
are there
up on
hardware
that.
implementations?
I'm not keeping track of that, but I can look it up for you. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
We can look up. But it is based on mostly the vector extensions, if I'm remembering correctly. These are more used. So what I do know is that the next revision of the spec, the most recently frozen instruction architecture specification, that has improvements that will help with this compression software and all these kind of things called vector extensions. So that's one of the big improvements.
Okay, so maybe another question: can you run like off-the-shelf GPU, like Radeon RX 9000
yes, actually,
on this platform?
You can run off-the-shelf GPU.
Okay, so the existing drivers and hardware support should work, in theory.
A quick caveat: I did not run that GPU myself, but I do know a colleague who runs, who hangs out on the Fedora Matrix channel, RISC-V Matrix channel. Just do hop in there, and he will answer every question that is not clear to you in all clarifying ways.
Thank you.
I don't know how much more time do we have? Are we at time? We're over time? Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Is there a session chair? I was kind of waiting for someone to start this. Okay, we have no session chair. All right, I am waiting for nothing. So I guess let's get this started. All right, so my name's Tim, and I'm going to be talking about ROCm on AMD GPUs in Fedora. So what I'm looking to talk about is do a bit of introduction, talk about just generally ROCm in Fedora. Go into one of the common questions I've gotten is, will my GPU work with this stuff? Talk a little bit about some less traditional accelerators and leave some time at the end for questions. So who am I? Why am I talking about this? I worked for Red Hat for over 14 years. Almost all of that was as part of Fedora Quality or Fedora QA, depending on what time period we're talking about. And I got into, or my interest in open source AIML tooling started after, or during and after I was in grad school. And wanted to see that open source options be a better option. As part of that, started working on ROCm. I was one of the founding members of the packaging SIG for ROCm, and I started working for AMD earlier this year to improve ROCm's presence in the upstream Linux distros. There's the quote there from the official documentation, but ROCm is a software stack. Almost all of it is open source, and the idea is to allow programmers to use AMD GPUs for things that aren't the native graphics that you would that is the common use case for GPUs. Visually, it kind of fits into this. I was hoping I was going to have some sort of pointer, but I don't. So you have the stuff on the bottom with the hardware, and you have the things that people are most familiar with on top, the various frameworks, your PyTorch, your Onyx, your TensorFlow. And in the middle is ROCm. ROCm is all user space. And it has a compiler, it has the stuff that goes up to tools that are used to build with and ROCm, and then there's the libraries on top of it. You have the math libraries and the different components for machine learning and computer vision, but the part in the middle there is what ROCm is. So in Fedora, one quick, segue is talking about Inbox. So Inbox is what AMD calls our efforts to have our software available directly from distro vendors' repositories. This idea that you can just have a DNF install ROCm. And sort of comes from this idea that in order to have a good out-of-box experience, all of the bits need to be in the box. Some of the examples of other inboxed efforts would be the AMD GPU kernel module upstream, and the AMD parts of Mesa packagers, and more recently, and the stuff that I'm working on, is the ROCm packages. So as far as what AMD is doing for ROCm and Fedora, of the ROCm package, there are 4 people who have commit privileges for the ROCm packages. 3 of those 4 people are AMD employees, and it's part of our job to work on these packages. In practice, almost all, if not all, of the updates certainly recently come from those 3 people. We are in early phases of doing internal testing for new releases. We're actually starting with Rawhide, so we will be having internal testing that starts with Rawhide to test the packages before they start going out. That's not going to be public, but it will help with the overall quality of the packages and once they get into Fedora. If you're looking to find us, we are on Matrix in the AIML room. One of us is usually watching the AML SIG tag on Discourse, or that email alias list will contact us directly. So how much of ROCm is in Fedora? You saw from the graphic I showed before, there are quite a few different components. Almost all of it is available in Fedora. There are still a few packages that aren't in there yet, one of which, composable kernel, is something we are actively working on. That will be in Fedora soon. And there are some other bits that are less common, really just haven't been packaged for, either due to licensing issues or it just didn't seem like it was something that was very high value for Fedora. If any of that changes, if there's a need for it, if the licensing issues get fixed, those can and will be or could be packaged. So I've talked about, what is ROCm, what is being done to get it into Fedora, but what can you do with it? Applications in Fedora that have ROCm support built in, one is Blender. So if you install Blender on Fedora and you have a supported AMD GPU, you can have accelerated rendering. Ollama is another application that's for serving generative AI models. And there's quite a few libraries. There's the native stuff that is part of ROCm, the BLOS libraries, FFT, those kind of things. There's computer vision, and then what I think a lot of people associate, or one of the certainly current use cases for ROCm, which is the AML stuff. PyTorch is in the Fedora repositories. If you do DNF install PyTorch, that comes with ROCm acceleration for the GPUs that are supported. So, getting into the question of, will ROCm work with the GPU that I have? And unfortunately, I need to take a slight segue and get into the definition of the word supported. I'm going to avoid using that word for the rest of the presentation just because the meaning can get murky, but I just want to be clear. At the moment, these inbox packages are considered a community effort. Support's going to be a best effort. We will help as much as we can, but it's one of those things, but there's no contractual promises from AMD in terms of support. If you need the commercial support, you need to be going through official channels, and you need to be using the official builds. This could change maybe at some time in the future. I can't say, but at least at the minimum for now, just sort of getting this caveat out of the way. When we're talking about whether ROCm is going to work with a specific GPU or not, ROCm is not unfortunately is not a monolithic thing that gets built. You have to specify specific targets at compile time in order for those targets to be supported. And unfortunately, is compiled for doesn't always mean will work with zero problems. So in order to better answer this question, I break it down into three things. What is officially supported by the upstreams? What are the Fedora packages built for? And what targets see the most testing in Fedora? There is a pretty clear list upstream in the documentation about what is supported. A lot of that is going to be the data center stuff that I'm going to assume none or very few of us have access to because they're difficult to get hold of. But among the things that aren't meant for the data center, and this list actually just changed 2 weeks ago after I submitted my slides for review. So the GFX 1100, which is the 7000 series, both the workstation variants and the more gaming-focused ones, and then the 6000 stuff. What was just added 2 weeks ago is the current generation, like the Radeon 9070 and its related GPUs. So you notice I kind of tossed in that GFX 1100. That's related to all of this. Most people are familiar with their card. I have a 7900 XTX. I have a 9070 XT. And then there's how ROCm sees them, which is they're all grouped into instruction set architectures. So there's some examples there of the newest 9070, some of the more recent mobile stuff, the 7000 series, and then when you get into the 900s, most of that is going to be the data center MI cards. In general, a similar number for the ISA implies similar cards. So like 1100 and 1101 are pretty similar and by and large in some ways can be interchanged. When you start getting a little bit further apart between like 1100 and 1103, so 1100 is going to be a desktop card, 1103 is going to be a mobile GPU. There's a lot of similarity, but less so than like 1100 to 1101. And when you get between like 1100 and 906, quite a bit of difference. If you are trying to figure out what, trying to translate, what as far as like what card you have to what is the ISAs to figure out if it's supported, ROCm Info is a great tool. If you run it, or you can install it from the Fedora repos. When you run it, it will list off your GPUs and CPUs. But as part of that, it will show the ISA. In this case, I have a Radeon Pro W7700, and it's a 1101. If you get the binaries from upstream, or the ones that AMD provides directly, those are only built for what is officially supported. The Fedora packages are built for quite a few more cards than just what upstream supports directly. There is a macro that controls this for the most part, so we can just kind of have in one place set the list of what's being built for. And that's for almost all of them. Unfortunately, there's one package that is a bit special and doesn't support everything. It has a much smaller support list, but for almost everything else is going to have that default list, which goes anything from like GFX 900, which is an MI25, to the 1201, which is going to be the most recent, like the 9070 XT. So earlier I mentioned just because you can compile, build it for that card doesn't mean it's going to always work without issue. I kind of add this in here because the things that see the most testing in Fedora is what the ROCm packagers are using. Because we're at least at this point, we are doing most of the testing. At the moment, 1100 is what we consider to be our reference target. So that's going to be your 7000 series GPUs, and that's going to see the most testing. Sometime soon, we're going to be switching to the newest 9000 series, but that has not happened yet. And I'm just kind of trying to say if, these are the ones that are most likely to work behind the things that are officially supported. So, sort of a related question to, will my GPU work with this? I've also gotten the question of, well, what GPU should I get? And I'll answer this in two ways. The first way is if you already have an AMD GPU, just try it and see if it'll work. Because even if it's not on Upstream's officially supported list, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. However, if you are looking for a GPU and you want the most painless experience, get something off of Upstream's supported list. Basically, those are the things that are going to see the most attention upstream. They're most likely to see fixes, and they're most likely to see quick fixes. So I'm not saying those are the only things that will work, but those are going to give you the best experience. If something that's not on that list of officially supported GPUs, if that's not an option, either cost or availability, try to get as close as possible. Again, with the ISA numbers, try and get something that's as close as possible to something that is supported. I find TechPowerUp to be a great resource. If you just search for whatever the GPU name is, the card name, and find their page, if you scroll down, it'll tell you what ISA that card is, if you're trying to find it and don't have the card. All right, so less traditional accelerators. Traditionally, all this hybrid compute stuff, this idea of using GPUs for things that aren't directly rendered graphics. That's been all in the domain of workstations and servers and large farms using big GPUs. One of the things that's come along with this current interest in AI is how can we get this to run on smaller machines, on laptops, on things that don't cost as much as those big traditional accelerators and don't take as much power. Things like mobile GPUs and the currently in focus at least, things like NPUs. So mobile GPUs have really become powerful in the last couple of generations. It went from being something you could just use a desktop on to some of the modern stuff. You can play most 3D games at least at 1080p with just the mobile GPU. So these GPUs have become a lot more powerful lately. Unfortunately, there aren't any mobile GPUs right now that are officially supported. In practice, things mostly work, and it's something that the ROCm packagers want to see work. So if it's something that you try and you run into problems, please come find us because we want to help. We want to make sure that it works. We hope that there's going to be official support in the future, but like I said, talking about the situation today, not necessarily what will be. We do build Fedora's packages for a lot of the mobile or the recent mobile GPUs that I've listed up there. Everything up to, or things up to the most recent Strix Halo 8000 series GPUs. And again, if you run into problems, please come find us because we want it to work, and we will do our best to help you. Something that has gotten a whole lot of attention, I attribute it anyways to one of Microsoft's requirements that they want to have Copilot on all the, I don't know what the program is called, but they're sort of certified Windows machines. Need to have an NPU. The idea is that it is a very efficient, but not necessarily high power or high computing power way to assist your normal CPU with doing AI-related calculations. They usually fall into that category where they're not nearly as powerful as a GPU, but they don't take nearly as much power to run either. AMD's NPUs are very different from the GPUs. They use a different driver that's brand new. It just made it upstream in the kernel in, I think it was 6.14. And there is a different software stack that is not ROCm. That may change in the future, but for now, that is separate. The support has not made it into Fedora yet. Hopefully it will sometime in the near future, but it's not there at the moment. So just kind of wrapping up, if you're interested in any of this or if you're interested in helping, one of the biggest things we could use is testing. There are only so many of us that are packagers that we can only test so many things in so many different configurations. We only have so much hardware. So just finding out that something doesn't work can be very helpful. If it doesn't work, come find us, come file bugs. This is something that we do really want to see work, and we want to see it be used. On a side note, my team is actually hiring right now. So if it's something you're interested in, unfortunately of less relevance to this group, we are looking for people with Debian experience. So you might know someone, you might actually have that experience, but just figured I would put it out there. That is something that we're looking for. If you have that experience, if you are interested or know someone. So, any questions? Can someone pass the microphone? You guys all kind of raised your hands at the same time, to be honest.
Hey, is this on? Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for making ROCm on Fedora such a seamless experience, at least for me. And I have not super important question, just out of curiosity. If a user wants the latest or latest version of ROCm, it's basically you have to use rawhide.
Yeah. In general, in order to get the most recent version, it will hit rawhide first. We try not to do major disruptions. To already released versions, just because that's what is at least in our mind the best thing to do. But if you want the latest and greatest, it will be in rawhide.
Yeah.
I think the last it took us 1 week after the upstream release to get all of the rawhide packages updated for 6.4, and it took us a couple of days after 6.4.1 was released to get that updated.
Right. So updating older Fedora versions is it will be too complicated, I guess.
Yeah. For right now there are 3 of us at most. And we're supporting multiple distros. Yeah. So we just don't have the manpower to be able to do that kind of support. Yeah. And it would break Fedora rules unless we got exceptions to do major version changes in a release.
So just cool thing is that Ramalama solves this basically, because I can use whatever, and the Ramalama image, the ROCm image is using the basically latest version, so I like works well.
Are they building it? Okay, I'm not that familiar. I know that PyTorch is usually one major version behind.
Yeah, not raw high, but latest. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you have checked if RPM dependencies on devices work now. For example, if some user not knowing and carrying what GPU he or she has in the system just typed in DNF install Blender, that it could pull in ROCm libraries, like something like Blender would recommend ROCm if there is this PCI device present in the system.
Can RPM do that?
It works in SUSE.
Okay. This is news to me. I did not know that was a thing.
I'm not sure if it's working in Fedora. It wasn't a year ago when I was trying to find out.
Okay.
Yeah. Regarding requesting testing feedback from users, I think it would help if you had like a standard test suite that one can just, I don't know, DNF install and run, or something like the kernel team has, where for each kernel update there is a test case that there is some how to run it. So I think like that it would probably help get more feedback from.
Okay. Yeah, it is actually something we are currently working on. Trying to go through all the red tape to get it released. But I hear you, and it is something we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was wondering, are you also handling the AMD GPU bugs? If something doesn't work because of a kernel bug, for example?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Yeah, you mean to report bugs if something doesn't work in ROCm? Does this also include if the error comes from the kernel already?
Maybe. I think that's going to be more of an issue-by-issue thing. By and large, ROCm is the user space, AMD GPU is the kernel space. So if something, if it's a kernel oops or something like that, then my guess would be it's probably needs to go to the kernel. But again, I think that's very much a issue-by-issue. I'm sorry, I don't have a...
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, because you mentioned you're working on ROCm support on, like your team works on ROCm support on Fedora, whether or not this includes like making kernel.
The people, my team is just doing ROCm. There are people that are supporting the AMD GPU driver. There are people working on it. I honestly don't know the exact relationship as far as who from what company is following the bugs in Bugzilla. I don't have an answer to that, but they are separate groups of people. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
There's a number of developers from both AMD and Red Hat and other places that are supporting an online GPU stuff, but if you have bugs that are only triggered by ROCm and GPU, I don't know how those are handled. It would probably still have to be filed on freedesktop.org, but I don't know how they would be handled. Like, is Marcelo going to do that? I don't know.
So he was just for the sake of the recording and the people who are online. He was talking about there are people both at Red Hat and AMD watching bugs that are filed against AMD GPU. I don't think either of us are familiar with the exact process for how a compute specific kernel bug would be handled. I can look into it, but I do not know the exact process. I think I know the people who to contact internally, but that doesn't answer your question. So I will try and find an answer.
Yeah, my recommendation would still probably be to try to file the bug initially on freedesktop.org because that's where the kernel driver is maintained.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I don't know that Marcelo is going to be able to fix it. I don't know that that's the area of expertise there, but should at least be able to find the right person to get it to, and would be one of the right people to funnel a fix through to get it into the kernel. So.
Okay. Does that at least somewhat answer your question? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all very much. And if you have other questions, I'm here, or come find me on Matrix if it's not during this week. All right, thank you very much.
It is refreshment break time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't catch it then. Hope you find the right man who fix it for you. Are you shopping anywhere? You change the color of your hair. Are you busy? And did you have to pay that fine? Did you without you know the time? Are you still dizzy? Since I've come along, well, my body's been a mess. Is your ginger hair and the way you like to dress? Won't you come on over? Still making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie, Valerie. Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things and what you're doing. In my head I bring a picture. Since I've come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Sound making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie, Valerie,
Tell me what you really like. Baby, I can take my time. We don't ever have to fight. Just take it step by step. I can see it in your eyes, 'cause they never tell me lies. I can feel that body shake and the heat between your legs. You've been scared of love and what it did to you. You don't have to run. I know what you've been through. Just a simple touch and it can set you free. We don't have to rush when you're alone with me. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, babe. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, babe. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, babe. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, babe. You were not the single type. Said, baby, this the perfect time. I'm just trying to get you high. Faded off this touch. You don't need a lonely night. So baby, I can make it right. You just gotta let me try to give you what you want. You've been scared of love and what it did to you. You don't have to run. I know what you've been through. Just a simple touch and
You got a fast car. I wanted to get to anywhere. Maybe we'll make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me and myself, I got nothing to prove. You got a fast car. I got a plan to get us out of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far. Just cross the border and into the city. You and I, we could both get jobs. Finally seeing what it means to believe in. Someone's got a problem. You leave with a pattern, that's the way it is. He says it's better to go for ROCm. It's better to him to look like this. My mama went off and left him. She wanted me for life that he could give. I said somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school, that's what I did. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Live tonight or live and die this way. So remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, felt like I was wrong. See the lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I got a feeling that I belong. I got a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car. We go cruising into tennis house. You still ain't got a job. Working the market is a cut, girl. I know things will get better. You find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter. Buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs.
Don't think sorry's easily said. Don't try turning tables instead. You've taken lots of chances before, and I ain't gonna give any more. Don't ask me, that's how it goes. 'Cause part of me knows what you're thinking. Don't say words you're gonna regret. Don't let fire rush to your head. I've heard the accusations before, and I ain't gonna take any more. Believe me, the sun in your eyes makes some of the lies worth believing.
I am the eye in the sky, looking at you. I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind.
And I don't need to see anymore to know that I can read your mind.
Looking at you,
I can read your mind.
looking at you,
I can read your mind.
looking at you.
I can read your mind. Don't leave false illusions behind. Don't cry changing my mind. So find out a fool like before, 'cause I ain't gonna live anymore believing some of the lies, while all of the signs are deceiving.
I am the eye in the sky, looking at you. I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind.
And I don't need to see anymore to know that I can read your mind.
Looking at you,
I can read your mind.
looking at you,
I can read your mind.
looking at you.
I can read your mind. Won't you come sing about me? I'll be alone, dancing you, no baby. Tell me your troubles and doubts, giving me everything inside and out. And love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things that we were walking on. A slow change may pull us apart. When the light gets into your heart, baby, don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. Will you stand above me? Look my way, I never love me. Rain keeps falling down, down, down. Will you recognize me, or call my name, or walk on by? Rain keeps falling down, down, down. Don't you try and pretend it's my feeling we will win in the end, and I won't harm you or touch your defenses, vanity and security. Don't you forget about me. I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Don't you take you apart. I will put us back together, all heart. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. Ela, menina que vem e que passa, um doce balanço, caminho do mar. Moça do corpo dourado do sol de Ipanema, o seu balançado é mais que um poema, é a coisa mais linda que eu já vi passar. Porque estou tão sozinho. Porque tudo é tão triste. A beleza que existe. A beleza que não é só minha, que também passa sozinha. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, he smiles, but she doesn't see. But I watch her so sadly. How can I tell her I love her? Yes, I would give my heart gladly. But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at me. But she doesn't see. She doesn't see. She doesn't see. Oh, she doesn't see. Doesn't see. I wanna be the one you call every day and night. Are you gonna be the one who's always gonna treat me right? And when we get together, turning down the lights, need you 100, need you 100%. I wanna be the one you tell all your friends about. Baby, I'll be the one you just can't do it all. You gotta give me everything, baby, ain't no doubt. If we 100, need you 100% surviving every lonely day. When there's got to be no chance for me, my life would end. And it doesn't matter how I cry, my tears of love are a waste of time. If I turn away, am I strong enough to see it through? Go crazy is what I will do. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. Can't let go, and it doesn't matter how I try. I gave it all so easily to you, my love, to dreams that never will come true. Am I strong enough to see it through? Go crazy is what I will do. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, oh. If I can't have you, I don't want
Are we done with Stidham?
Don't walk around too much because there's a display over there. You kind of need that. Unless you have the slides memorized, which I don't think you do. Okay, I think we have a session chair who's going to introduce it. It's 1 minute.
Sounds good. Am I audible? All right. Welcome back, folks, from the break. In this one, we're going to talk about the Fedora Join SIG, specifically I Am Fedora. This is a label that we have in the Welcome to Fedora issue tracker that Fedora Join SIG makes use of when they are done onboarding someone to the Fedora project community. Moving on to the next slide, let's first introduce ourselves, of course. I am Akash Deepthar. I am a senior software engineer in the Fedora infrastructure, Red Hat community Linux engineering team, and I'm joined over here with Ankur Sinha. Go ahead.
Hello. I'm Ankur, as Akash said. I don't actually work in software development anymore. I'm an academic at University College London. But funnily enough, my journey with Fedora started way before I became an academic, and I can't seem to let go. So I'm still here, and I expect I'll still be here the next decade doing this. But yeah, I mean, this talk is all about onboarding newcomers because we want to get new people. More importantly, we want to retain them. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Thank you, Ankur. But speaking about onboarding and retaining, this is, of course, most of the stuff that we'll be talking about. But apart from that, what is the Fedora project community about? And how can people participate in the community? Sure. And most importantly, how people can participate in the Fedora Join SIG and help us with our efforts of onboarding and retaining people in the community. The next, where they can start contributing from. Fedora project is huge. There's a bunch of sub-projects and SIGs, special interest groups that people can participate in. So it can become a bit of a tricky affair to decide where they want to start from. So it's important to know that as well. And then finally, taking the contributions to the next level and just going on to the next thing. Maybe you started from coding, but you want to try your hand in designing things. Well, Fedora project gives you the opportunity to do just that. Well, we are Fedora. We are people from all over the world that come together to create software, artwork, documentation, events, and everything else in between to promote free and open source software. And these are the 4 foundations of Fedora project that I'm sure most of you are already aware of. The first foundation states that we are committed to innovation. We always make sure that we are kind of at the leading curve of what's out there in the software and the technology. Then features, we really care about making sure that we put some excellent stuff out there with all the software offerings that we provide people with. Freedom, we make sure that we stick to, as far as we can, free and open source software. And then finally, we are a tight-knit group who care about people and the friends that we have around us. In Fedora Join SIG, whenever we are onboarding people, we look for potential and not polish. We don't care if someone is good at coding. We see if they are motivated to stick around and if they are willing to learn, because motivation is something that's hard to build. Skills, they can come with time. But yeah, you onboard every single one of them. Of course, you don't leave out the ones with polish now, would you? But here's why we stick to onboarding people with potential and not just those with polish, because we think that the skills can come with time. It's just a matter of time before someone gets good at something that they do as soon as they find the interest of doing it. Then reflecting on the fact that it's curiosity and it's where they come from that defines how good they are at doing something. Then the newcomers, they can provide us with perspectives. To me, a certain documentation might make sense, but the newcomer might be like, what is it? Where's the starting point? What does the Fedora messaging terminology mean? So it might not look that obvious to us, but they can provide us with the perspectives to understand that there's indeed something that needs fixing or improving. And then finally, we value the community aspect more than just instant growth and development, because we care more about the people, and that is why that's how we roll in the Fedora Join SIG. Right, so here's a quick run through of how the onboarding thing works. Of course, me and Ankur, we had this discussion beforehand. How would people know that they need to open a FAST account first? Sure, the documentation would do a good job at it, but I think Fedora Join SIG is filled with a bunch of friendly faces who are willing to answer all and any questions that people might have. The moment they come up with any questions or a Fedora project account, we provide them with a welcome ticket. What's a welcome ticket? Well, it provides people with the context about what Fedora project is, with some introductory links of what free and open source software is, because for someone who is just getting started with free and open source software, it can be very tricky to understand how a single project can have loads of documentations, designs, events, and everything else in between, and we can still keep together and keep releasing a new release every 6 months. What are the goals of Fedora Join SIG? Of course, the first one is to encourage people to join. We would onboard them, and to make sure that we have this contact with the existing contributors who have been around for a while, with the potential new contributors, give them some point of contact so that they know whom to ask questions from, and then counsel them, help understand what is it that they're looking for. Some people might come in for maybe participating in a mentored project, in a formalized mentorship program. Some of them might be around because they could not make their favorite game run in Fedora Workstation, while the others might be looking for a place where they can try their designing hands-on. So it's quite important to understand what is it that they want to do inside of a community. Then establishing processes, relations, and occasions where they can take their contributions up by a notch. If it is, let's just say, a new team that they want to contribute to, feel free. There's a bunch of places to be a part of. And then finally, establishing channels of communication with the folks. As we are a very people-driven community, it might be that a person who onboards someone might be addressed by someone else, but that's totally fine. speaking about participation, let me show you this rather complicated looking graph of how Fedora projects, sub-projects, and sub-teams are associated, arranged. And well, I say it's complicated. Trust me, it's not. All that the newcomers need to do is find a place to jump in, right? Depending on what is it that their interests lie in and what it is that they want to do inside Fedora project, they need to find a place. And if it doesn't work, well, they can always try again in some other place until something clicks. And when it does, they can take their contributions further. But how does a newcomer join a community? How does it look like from their perspective? I have spoken it at length from the perspective of someone like me who is willing to onboard and retain members, but how does it look like from their perspective? We of course start with the introduction. We would like to know who they are and where they're coming from, because they are not someone who write code, they're a human being to us first. Then we let them explore, we let them loose. Fedora project is huge, and we would not want to curb their creativity by telling them that, oh, you did Python before? Might as well onboard you in Fedora infrastructure. Nope, who knows, they might want to do some containers or something like that, you know? So we let them loose, let them find something that they want to work on. Of course, we won't limit ourselves. If they want to have something to work on, we definitely provide them with, but only if they ask for it. Then finally interacting, letting us know if they found something, and us checking with them every single time, after equal periods of time, to understand how much of a progress they made. It's very possible when you're joining a community as large as Fedora project that you might not find something to work on immediately. There will be some time you'd be left by yourselves and you'd be wondering just what exactly it is that you're doing. But that is fine. You can hang around with the friendly faces that there are. And then soon enough, there would be someone who would be willing to share the information. There's loads of documentation that you can learn from. And then finally, you find the sense of belonging in the community, and that is when you are like, hey, I could definitely use the help of mentors, don't get me wrong, but now I can find my way through the community, and maybe I started writing documentation, sure, but now I can take it on, maybe do some coding, do some infrastructure, probably try my hands in the design team, stuff like that. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Ankur, who's going to talk a bit about the progress that the Join SIG has made from the previous flock to this one. Over to you.
Thank you. Right, let's get to some graphs and plots. So, what you see now is information since the last conference. And what you see on the left, we have certain states for each ticket, and this is meant to be a set of milestones for a newcomer, right? So when they get in, they get a tag that says, looking into Fedora, hello world. And then the way we do it is we usually have 3 progress checks for them. Now these progress checks are not meant to be 3 strikes, okay? That's not the idea. And we don't do them every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. We don't want newcomers to feel like they have to actively get started and do something constructive to be part of the community, right? All we want them to do is hang out in the channels and get to know the people. Because it's good to become a part of a community when you have a task, but it's better if you make bonds with the people. That's what keeps you around, okay? Tasks come and go, people stick around, okay? So what we want to really do is we want these people to form strong bonds with other people and form friendships in the community. And there's always more than enough work to be done, right? There's never a shortage of work in Fedora. So we do three progress checks. If somebody doesn't respond by the 3rd progress check, which usually takes about a year and a half, then we'll probably go around and say, okay, this person, for whatever reason, again, you can start the process. It doesn't mean you have to finish it. It doesn't even mean you have to finish it quickly. You can pause because something came up, life comes up, and you can come back to it and reopen your ticket. But the idea is that you take your own time exploring Fedora, getting to know the people, getting to know what's out there, and when you're comfortable, you can go ahead and start contributing, right? We don't want to rush people. We don't want to make them feel like there's a gatekeeping process going on over there. None of that. So The first check is where most people are at. Maybe a few months from there, we'll do a second check. The check goes something like this. Hey, how are you doing? We've seen you in some channels. We haven't seen you in others. We haven't seen you at all. Is there something we can help you with? Do you have some feedback on how we can improve the process? Have you spoken to people? What is your experience? Did you try and join a team? Did you have any difficulties? The idea is that this ticket gives them a single point of contact with this Join SIG, right? And eventually, as they go through the gears, a lot of our people will end up at on Fedora, which means they've actually joined a team and made a contribution. Okay. Again, it doesn't mean they have to become team lead. Whenever they think they've joined a team and they're being part of it, even by just hanging out in the channels, they are part of the community. Okay. There is no threshold. They don't have to have opened a pull request. They don't have to have fixed a bug. They don't have to have addressed a ticket. Okay. When somebody feels that they're integrated enough and they want to hang around, they are part of Fedora. Okay? So the whole point is for them to be part of the people of Fedora, right? And then work will come. So we've not done badly. A couple of abandoned ones, a couple of unresponsive ones. The successful numbers keep going up, albeit rather slowly, but that's the goal. The more people we can put in that bracket, the more successful we are. The other thing we do is we try and tag these tickets to try and link them to different parts of Fedora. So when people introduce themselves, they will say, oh, I've got some Python experience, this is what I would like to do. And we put these tags. Now, the idea behind these tags is that we can then go into these teams and tell them, we've got 4 newcomers who would like to do infrastructure. Can somebody please sort of get in touch with them, right? Not surprisingly, a lot of people are techies, so software development and infrastructure is large. But we've got loads of people coming in for marketing. We've got loads of people coming in for design. And if Fedora does it, we have a tag for it, right? That's the way we go. This is not, we don't have a system where it says, oh, only these teams can have these tags, right? So the idea is just to give some visibility to what areas of interest these newcomers are distributed into. This is just total numbers. It's not the strongest, but the numbers do tend to go up around releases, so May, October, and that's primarily because around releases we make a lot more noise about Fedora, right? We make more blog posts, we talk more actively about what's going on, changes are discussed. We have release parties, quite a few people coming through those. But on average, we do tend to get a couple of people maybe once every 2 weeks. And this number seems to be going up now as we have more and more. So we're reaching a core threshold, after which this becomes a self-sustaining project, right? And that is where we want to be. So this is slightly misleading. I do not do 46% of the work. That's not how this works. I have merely opened 46% of the tickets because I hang around in the channel quite a bit. But the idea is somebody comes in and says, hello, I would like to be part of Fedora. What do I do? Anybody in the channel can open a ticket for them and help them on board, right? So while I was doing it before, a lot of people have now joined, and people no longer wait for me to open the ticket. Because what would happen was a lot of these people hang about, and they'd ping me and say, Ankur, can you please open a ticket? And slowly, by repeatedly saying to them, no, you can open the ticket, you see that the work is now being distributed. If you're in Fedora and you know how the process works, which is literally open a ticket, there's a template, you don't even have to write anything. You open a ticket, put their name in, that's it, right? You should be in our channel, and you should be on this plot, okay? This is not something that only 6 people can do. This is anybody should be doing this. In fact, everybody should be doing this. You have a question?
Do we have people opening their own tickets?
Yes, we do have people opening their own tickets, which also works, but then I monitor to make sure that, because they need to be added to the Prague group so they can edit metadata and all that sort of thing. So when I get a notification or somebody else gets a notification, we go and update the ticket to make sure they're in the group and all that. But we have had multiple people open their own tickets and say, hello, I wasn't sure what to do, so I've opened this ticket, can you please help? And then we'll follow it up in a comment and say, yes, that's amazing, can you please introduce yourself, A, B, C, D, right? So again, the only requirement, of course, is this is on Prague, so you have to have a Fedora account. But if somebody has already opened a Fedora account, they can do this. Now, this is just reminding us that The code of conduct applies in all our communication channels, right? We want to encourage everybody to join us. We have, the ground rules are the same, right? So be considerate, be respectful. The only addition here is that we are dealing with newcomers. And if you remember your history of when you started, or if you're a newcomer, newcomers tend to be, they get scared easily, let's just put it that way, right? They are worried about asking stupid questions, even though there are none. But they're always worried, oh, if I ask this question, somebody might think I don't know anything. So when you're in these channels, we try to do our best and not use things like demotivating language. So for example, if somebody comes in, we try not to say, oh, that's easy. No, it's not. It may be easy for you because you've been around for a while. It's not easy for them, right? So things like, oh, you just do this. This is easy. This is language we try to avoid, okay? And this is the kind of thing that at the moment is not documented, but we probably should, because everybody in that channel needs to know a little bit about how to speak to novices, right? So if you teach, let's say, programming 101, and you've been trained, you would be told, this is how you approach it. Don't, for example, don't touch their keyboards. Ask them to do things themselves. Don't say something is easy, because it's not easy for them. So these are things that we want to keep in mind. So follow the code of conduct, but be slightly more mindful about your communication, all right? And then the ticket is all about trying to make them successful contributors, right? This is known to a lot of us subconsciously. We may not have thought about it, but commitments, if you can do something regularly, you're more likely to keep doing it regularly. What we do say to them is, you don't have to commit 40 hours a week. You don't have to commit 6 hours a week. It could be 10 minutes a week. Just start with that. Start small and build. Observation, for a lot of newcomers, because they don't know how things work, we ask them to first just go and join any community channels, right? So if you're interested in QA, just go and hang out in the channel, see how things work. Attend a meeting. You don't have to say anything. But being around people will help you realize how things work, right? And slowly, as you realize how things work, you'll be able to jump in and contribute. But we don't want them to go up to somebody and say, give me an issue to work on. We want them to hang around, observe how things are done, and learn that way. Alternatives and momentum. So don't get stuck on one thing. Try different things. Fedora is huge. It's complex. There's so much to do. If you want to do something that doesn't exist in Fedora, just start, right? There's enough space in the community. There's enough infrastructure. There are enough people to help you out. But don't get stuck on any one thing, right? Try different things. See what you like. There's something for everybody. And finally, as I said before, if you link in with people, you will maintain momentum, right? It becomes really hard to not keep going back to the chat channel and talking to your friends, right? Because we do become friends. Finally, and this is the primary purpose of this talk. So there are 10, 15 people who are active now. We need more. We need all of you, right? We need people from infrastructure, from QA, from marketing, from design, from Mindshare, from the social team. We need everybody to be in there because we don't know what somebody new to Fedora wants to do, right? So we know enough to direct them to you, but if you're there directly, that just takes that one step away, right? Then you can speak to them and say, oh, hello, you're interested in marketing. This is what we're doing. We have a meeting. Why don't you come along? Whereas if somebody comes to me, I say, oh, yes, I know what the marketing team does. I think they're going to have a meeting. Why don't you go and check it out, right? So if we have representatives from all parts of Fedora, it just takes a couple of steps away. And that may not feel like a lot to us, but to a newcomer, 2 fewer steps makes a massive difference, okay? So what we need is we need all of you to be in there. We need you to just hang out in the channels. Again, there's no paperwork, there's no form filling, there's no code writing. All you have to do is hang out in the channels and see what's going on. If you are part of a team, please try and make sure your onboarding documents are simple. Please try and make sure they're simple for a newcomer, not simple for you. They're 2 completely different things, right? We do have release parties, we have virtual events, so we're okay there, but if you do have the time, organize a few more. The more of these events we have, the more likely it is that more and more people will come and join us. And finally, mentorship. So This has been tried in Fedora multiple times in my time here. It has always crashed and burned, primarily because people don't want to commit to being a mentor. But we are looking at ways. We just had a discussion outside, and we're looking at ways of setting up a buddy program, if not a mentorship program. And the idea is that you'll have a common pool of people anyway, but you will have a couple of people who are your buddies. When you have trouble, you can contact them directly. So this is something we're going to be working on. We would really like all of you to participate. If you have suggestions, we want you to participate in suggestions. This is meant to be an evolving process, right? It's not meant to be set in stone. So it will keep evolving, and that is it. So again, I reiterate on the last bit, we would love for all of you to please hang out in the channel because we really need your help with newcomers, right? 10 of us can't look at all of Fedora, we can't see everything that's going on, and we can't give people up-to-date information. But if we have 50 people, we are pretty confident that there's somebody from every part of Fedora there to help out a newcomer, right? We still have time for questions? Oh yeah, we do.
For folks who are newcomers coming into the community, is there something that we're telling folks that is kind of like the what you get back out of contributing? Is there something that we have that we're telling folks or pointing people to? Because I guess that would just be interesting to know. So.
Yeah, I'll take it. A bunch of times what happens is people want to contribute to a community because they want to, you know. It's like a hammer, you know, they buy a new hammer and everything starts looking like a nail, right? So they learned a new skill and they want to probably put it into a use in a project that has a bunch of users. And they want to make sure that their work is being seen by a lot of people. And Fedora project is, you know, it provides them a platform to do just that. But if they're looking for something that's tangible, we do provide them with, like I said before, a bunch of mentored programs. They could definitely participate in Google Summer of Code or Outreachy. Of course, these things have limited places, but they can, you know, stay committed, keep contributing, and find their way where they can contribute over there.
Just a quick one. You said join the channel. Can you tell me what channel and where?
That's a good one. I think is it in the next page? Let's find that out. Oh, it's not in the next page. Amazing. Yeah, there's a discussion thread over there. I think, well, that can be a good starting point, but it's on Matrix. People have been avoiding Matrix since the past few weeks for obvious reasons, but whenever things go back to normal, I think that is where a bunch of newcomers end up joining, asking what it is that they want to do, who they are, they introduce themselves, and where they can start from. So just hanging around over there, being a friendly face and saying, oh, wow, you mentioned you do Python, you can definitely start with Fedora Infra, stuff like that. It can help them, you know, find a starting point because that is where it counts. A bunch of times these newcomers, they come in, they introduce themselves, but they don't find anyone to talk with, and then they drop off. Can't blame them, can't blame ourselves, but we definitely could do better at onboarding.
So, if you're on the Fedora home server, search for join, and there's only the one channel that goes join, and that's where we are.
I was actually going to comment on the same thing. There's also an introductions channel, which is, maybe a problem. We should probably sort out that there are two channels like that. At the same time, there's one set of documentation that is the join documentation, and it is oriented both for people in the Join SIG helpers and for people looking to join. This isn't a question. This is just me saying things I noticed. It might be nice to split that into docs for newcomers and docs for people who want to help with onboarding, the welcome team or something like that.
Definitely. Yeah.
I know it's easier to say things like that than to do them.
Oh, for sure. And that is why we could use all the help we can get.
We can do that over Flock. So we can split the documentation today and get that done. No hanging fruit.
Right. Do we have any more questions?
If you do end up with questions later, just turn up in the channel. You don't have to think about them now. The whole point is there's a channel. We want you to turn up. Just turn up. That's all we're asking you to do. And everything else will happen.
A, that, and B, me and Ankur we'd be around the event throughout Flock. Well, so feel free to reach out to us at any point in time you have questions. And I want to give a quick shout out to Matt H, who could not join due to unavoidable circumstances. He was a part of this talk, and we would love to have him over here. But as it happens, well, it is what it is. All right, if you don't have any more questions, thank you very much for your time.
two in a trance, and he never leaves the disco alone. Arrogance but not conceit. As a man, he's complete. My creme de la creme. Please take me home. He wears the finest clothes, the best designers, heaven knows. Ooh, from his head down to his toes.
Do I have to press anything? Ah, hi. Can I get a quick raise of hands who is not part of the Red Hat CLE team? Okay.
You're part of the team.
So, just a fair warning ahead of time, so we're improvising a little bit because Aoife got a lot of cancellations. And we just thought it would be fun to have, for everyone who's not CLE, to have a Ask Me Anythings question. But for those who are not CLE, you have half the room that is answering your questions.
If people who are on the team have questions, then that's probably good to know.
Those are for you. So, you have a couple of people up here, a few people, so maybe we start with a quick introduction before we dive into CLE. Would that make sense?
Brendan says no.
Brendan always says yes.
Hi, I'm Brendan, and I always say yes. Also, I am the overall manager of CLE, which mostly means I do paperwork. So CLE is Community Linux Engineering, and we are the group of Red Hatters that spend all of our time on community Linux things. Like there's a lot of engineers that work on Linux at Red Hat, but most of them are focused on specific technology areas. And the thing our group has in common is that we work on kind of the overall platform. So from the infrastructure that runs Fedora and CentOS, all the way through kind of the leadership for assisting community and checking quality, design, documentation, everything. We have people that work on those things, but just because we work for Red Hat doesn't mean that only Red Hatters can do those things. Like our job is to help those things happen, but to do it in a community context. So anything we're doing, we also want you to be able to do it too.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Carl George. I'm explicitly not a manager, but they dragged me up here anyways. I am the EPEL team lead, which is a different function than a manager. But any EPEL questions, I'm happy to talk about them.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
Who doesn't know Matthew?
In this role, they don't.
The new role is flexible, no?
Former FPL, now CLE manager. Yes.
And we're happy to have you.
Thank you, Julia.
So I'm Julia. I'm also manager under Brendan with Ant and Matthew and Steve, who can't be here today. And yeah, I'm partly responsible with Matthew for the UX team, a little bit responsible for the EPEL team, a little bit for quality engineering, and a little bit for development. I have everything, basically.
Hey, my name is Tomáš. I self-identify as software engineering grease monkey, but my role is product owner, so I'm the product owner of the team.
Are we allowed to self-identify? I don't know. I identify as technology cat herder. Okay, cool. My name is Ant. I'm also one of the managers on the CLE team. I think Brendan covered off about 4 of our slides, so if you want to hide about 4 more of those, we could get straight to questions.
Exactly. That would be like literally leaving us to the intro slides. So thanks so much for explaining our slides, Brendan. I told you it's improvising, right? So you heard what kind of teams we have. Are there any questions for us? How we work, what we do? We have a full room of pretty much everyone, or actually every team is covered with their expertise. So knock yourself out. Any questions? Go for it. Or management questions. Or I don't know any jokes, but usually Brendan has really good jokes.
I see a question.
So you guys have to probably communicate to each other. Do you have little meetings like where you're just communicating about like the connecting teams, or I don't know, I'm kind of picturing like a sleepover chat like between managers. But I'm sure it's not like that.
We have a channel whereby I sign off for the day, and then I come in the next morning, and Brendan's left a bunch of messages, and Matthew, because of time zones. And then we go, oh, some stuff's happened. I better read these really quick.
So it's all async, pretty much.
Yeah, until the middle like part of the day, and then we're all basically there at the same time.
Yeah, on that channel, we started doing a thing with the Scrum style, what I accomplished yesterday, what I hope to do today, why I'm not going to do those things today, those questions. That's been, because at Red Hat, we are all supposed to adapt an agile workflow. We thought we'd better, as managers, start eating some of that dog food.
And we're doing that pretty good, actually.
Yeah, good for us.
We have a lot of fun. We're asking questions. We meet about once a week where we chat about boring admin stuff like travel budgets, how we structure our team, what kind of issues we are currently facing. I think no one actually has been ignorant of the matrix stuff.
I have got a question regarding budget and everything else. In the last years, there was the problem that there was less budget for stickers and everything else for events for the people. Has that been a little bit improved, or are you influenced by IBM regarding that? What is the future there?
You mean for Fedora stickers? I think that is a question for you.
Yeah, okay, so like Brendan said, this is a team that works on engineering on a lot of specific things. The budget that comes for Fedora community building, including swag, this event, travel subsidies to this event, that kind of thing, comes through the open source program office, which is several tiers of management up and back down again. But Justin Flory works over in that organization. Travel budgets overall at Red Hat, especially for engineering, have been hit really hard. One could say that's IBM's fault, but I think that actually Red Hat as an independent company would still have that same got to make the stockholders happy thing. So I don't think it's really an IBM thing coming down. And I think also that's the case with the open source program office budget. It's just, making the numbers look good it's hard to make those things go. But yeah, I wish there were more money for those things too, and hopefully we can get that to happen.
So you mentioned the whole agile thing, and I. Emily,
Julia, come back.
Now, so this may be the right audience for this, or it may not, because this might actually be more of a council thing. But I know that there's been some talk off and on over the past few years about getting rid of Bugzilla. And I also know that Jira is not a targeted replacement for that. But is there, has CPE been talking about what a direction might be there? And is it something that's going to tie in with Agile in some way, or?
Yeah, so to answer a question, we started looking into replacing Bugzilla with the migration of GitForge. So this was one of the first things that we discovered is Forgeo currently doesn't support some edge cases that we have, so we will going to migrate to Forgeo and use Bugzilla for a while, at least 1 or 2 releases. But when we get to implement all the feature we need upstream, we will then turn off Bugzilla and stay with issue tracker with Forgeo instances. So it will be all in one place.
I actually love that idea, but I have two concerns that might need to be brought up with that then. One is because RHEL has moved to Jira and moved in a different way. Right now, scripts existed, and so ProdSec and those things are willing to work with us on filing CVs and Bugzilla. How do we ensure that we still get notified of those things and whatever we move to?
And is there going to be any integration as far as the agile stuff in this?
So, sorry? Me too. I've been in contact with them. So, yeah. So, a part of it, I will give you a word. So, I was in discussion with the project guys internally, and they will provide us with some endpoints that we will then be able to consume or use in any other way to have some sort of synchronization, but it is still in development and it's not yet deployed anywhere. We will slowly but surely, with 43, we will have something in place to test for people. It will not be, the production will not rely on that, but it will be there for us to see what we are missing, and we'll be able to show security people like, hey, can you look at this, and can you show us what we need to implement to make the data pumps working, or what do we need from you to implement so the data pumps can work both ways.
That is a much more on the ground, in touch with what's going on practically. The answer that I have is that the product security team is committed to making sure we have that data one way or another from a higher management level. So something will be made to work at some point.
Yeah. That's really all that matters.
Yeah.
As long as we've got some sort of notification to make sure that we're not falling behind on security because of it, I'm happy with that answer. I don't know how I'm going to handle a forge for kernel bugs, because we've got like, what, 1,000 Bugzillas open at any given time on kernel?
That'll be exciting use cases for Jeff.
So maybe I'll start trying to direct people there.
Give this back to you.
Maybe I'll start trying to direct people there as soon as it's available for testing, just to see if I can work out a workflow for that, because I'm kind of terrified.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. In upcoming weeks, we will be announcing the staging deployment for wider community, so people will be able to test the Forge deployment that will become production eventually. So we will definitely create a space for all teams and all interested parties to give us feedback and see what we can improve and test. This is a really interesting use case. Like having that throughput of issues will be definitely challenging, like for the upstream project. But it's in a good way, right? Because we will innovate, we will make it faster, we will make it better.
No, I mean, it's not like Bugzilla is a perfect solution. It's just we've had, 15 years of messing with it. But I am interested to see how it works from a use case standpoint there, because I'd hate things to get dropped on that end too.
Okay, I want to add just a little more context for anybody who isn't in CLE or isn't a Red Hatter, because Justin invoked the Agile thing. So there's this thing happening inside Red Hat's Linux engineering organization where all teams are going to be practicing some form of Scrum. We have not figured those details out yet, but what that amounts to is that Justin has to figure out, all right, how do I sprint and like manage 1,000 BZs? For our team, for CLE, we're thinking, all right, how are we going to handle the differences between interrupt work, quality work, and like planned work, like Git Forge migration. So these are things that we're working on right now. And so the nexus of that is our tooling. Inside RHEL, we're in GitLab and Jira. Inside Fedora, we're currently in Pegger and Bugzilla. And like a great outcome would be for Red Hat maintainers who are packagers in both Fedora and RHEL to have a simplified workflow where they can kind of do the same things in both places with relative ease. So hopefully the answers we come up with for how we do this will be ones that both allow us to continue working as we do with community right now, but also be a little bit more predictable, and at the same time kind of helpful to anybody who is working on multiple distributions at once.
Who else has questions? Anything goes.
I have a follow-up question for Forgio. So recently Fedora infrastructure was kind of slow due to AI scrapers and other stuff. And like, are we sure, or is there a high possibility that Forgio will help in this regard compared to Pegger?
No. The issue we are having is on a different layer. So applications themselves You can handle it on that level, but what we are discussing is filtration one step before. So when you do the request, you can see technologies like Anubis is the name of it, I think, which will give you a proof of work. So there are other options, and Forgeo isn't the solution for this. We will need to implement it network-wide for all services, not just one by one by one.
Okay, thanks.
Who else has questions? Now is a unique time to grill us.
For the sake of everyone else, could you tell us more about the Fedora QE role you mentioned at the, I think it was the FESCO Q&A panel?
We've got an opening coming up to work on making Fedora quality the best it can possibly be. You want the mic back?
We have multiple roles opening up. So if you are interested in anything in the realm of the Fedora distribution and working on that full time, Matthew in particular is interested in talking to you.
Or if you know someone who knows someone.
Definitely. Get paid to work on Fedora. How cool is that?
So just on that topic, where are the roles going to be located?
That was my real question.
Okay, I'll take that. Coincidentally, I really like sharing more information than most people are comfortable providing, so feel free to ask questions like that. So we have this policy. We're trying, so COVID happened, and offices were shuttered for a while, and they've never kind of gone back to capacity. And inside Red Hat, we're not going to do some sort of return to office thing, like we're all great working at home. Most of us were there already. But what we're trying to do is rebuild the offices. And one of the ways we do that is by policy, we try to hire into key sites where we have a presence and we want to have like a bigger engineering presence than we have right now. So when we open new positions, we're trying to hire into those. And so that's places like Brno or Waterford, Raleigh, Boston, Lowell, places like that. However, it's not a hard and fast thing in that if we can't fill a role in a certain period of time, then we just open up more broadly. So for the QE rec that's open right now, we are wide open to location. We have like salary constraints, but somebody can be anywhere as long as we're like legally allowed to employ people there.
Anyone else?
Come on, ask secret things.
No one?
I liked the what about the budget thing. That was a good hard question.
Yeah.
Those are more hard questions.
Now's your chance to get at all the internal, squeezy, weird things.
I just want to share something that I've observed. I feel like in the Fedora community, we've gotten used to not asking for things. Like we're so used to the idea that the answer is going to be no, that we don't bother to ask. Earlier today, Kevin talked about a data center move, and I just want to contextualize this. We have bought so much more hardware for Fedora in the last 6 months that when that move is done, the average age of systems is going to go from, what is it, like 7 years right now, to under 1 year. They're going to be faster, they're going to have more memory, they're going to have more cores. Like just across the board, if you're a member of the community and you're used to holding back, asking for things, asking questions, making suggestions, like this is the time to start asking again, because I will support everything I can, and it's probably more than you're used to.
And even, it's actually incredibly helpful when you ask for something reasonable and we have to say no, because we can record the we had to say no's, and this is a time when those are very valuable for us, I'd say.
I will just add, it's also really valuable if you comment something, if you have some request which is ridiculous, because you'll have fun with it.
Yes. Yes, please.
Entertain us.
And maybe it turns out to not be so ridiculous. So maybe, yeah.
The new FPL will have a costume budget.
We'll hold you to that. Anything else you would like to know?
I'll go for the difficult, scary question, just because I'm not part of Red Hat and never have been. What has changed that all of a sudden Fedora has this budget? Is it the fact that they've finally gotten rid of the previous FPL and they're excited about it, or?
Honestly, Red Hat's had some good quarters, and that makes it takes off a lot of the pressure where that pressure got there from us not having so many great quarters, and that led to that's corporate America at work, I guess.
And there's one thing that we should not forget, and that's that we got a new manager.
Oh, yeah.
About a year and a half ago, and things started to change.
That's not me. That's. Yeah, I do think, so another thing of asking for things, Brendan was not going to come here in order to save travel budget for more community people and people on the front lines, but then we asked, and Steph said, hey, you should go out there after all, so it was good we asked.
Oh, this is your fault then.
Yeah. It's good to ask.
Spring it right here.
I am curious, I guess, from your guys' perspective, because, I mean, I've talked with Matthew individually and Carl about this both, but I'm curious what the path to moving into the community Linux engineering looks like as far as a career path is concerned, because I've heard numerous things around a job was created for me and I'm just doing stuff now versus like other things, and like I said, I have a desire, open source is where my heart is, so but yeah, I'm just open to hearing kind of what that looks like.
I think I can share my story. So I worked at Red Hat previously, but I didn't contribute to Fedora. I didn't work on Fedora. I contributed to Fedora, but didn't work there. And for me personally, it was about seeing a position that was opened and get interested in it. I spent a lot of time in interviews, but after the interviews were done, I went into position, and then the career path started to enroll. And I was a release engineer. That's how I was hired. And over the years, I got some more experience, and suddenly position opened, and I got into a different one. And I think this is how the career path works, more or less. Like, you have to find the opening. Of course, sometimes we know that we will need somebody, so the request it will be open for that special position because we know we are missing that kind of person. But in general, just check the positions and apply.
If you are interested in, say, Fedora quality, it might be a good time.
You walked in late, you missed that.
Yeah. We do have some openings in there.
So just answering that question a little bit further with some germane examples. Inside Red Hat, we occasionally have key projects that get funded, like RISC-V is something that we are in early days on. And so we created a QE rec for RISC-V. And Kashyap in the corner there filled that role. It took a little while to get him to agree to it, but he's like, if you were in his session earlier, or he and David Cantrell's session earlier today, like it was a solid update. In other cases, people that are on the team move to other things. Like we have a new initiative in Red Hat called RHEL AI, and a number of the QEs that were previously Fedora QE have moved to RHEL AI because we do internal mobility inside Red Hat. And because of that, we now have openings on the team that weren't there previously. So there's a lot of different things that can cause openings to happen, but ultimately it's because we see a business need, and Fedora is the start of a very long pipeline into a product.
Also, this is possibly unsolicited CV advice, but as the person that's been trying to fill one of these QE roles since January, if you're applying and you have any sort of a GitHub link, please include it. It makes our life so much easier. Like, you can look at somebody's qualifications, but it's not going to tell you an awful lot off the bat. Whereas if there's a link, I can go and see, oh, this person's done this thing, this is relevant, cool, let's talk to them, or let's bring them to the next stage or whatever.
I can tack on that real quick. I got hired in 2019, and a lot of that came from already being in the communities, being in the CentOS space and working at EPEL, and just being kind of a known entity that one of the previous managers on the team just basically said, hey, with the initiative base, with CentOS Stream starting, we want Carl to come work on this. I want to hire Carl. Give me a rec for Carl. And so that's how I got hired in, just by being a known thing and being in those spaces already. So on top of the GitHub link thing, just start going to community meetings and participating wherever you can is the best way to start.
On the don't do things, although Red Hat's very big into AI, don't feed the job requirements into AI and then spit that back out as your resume, please. Just saying.
What if it's real AI? Can you use that one? Familiarity with the product.
Also, if part of the hiring process is an assessment, please don't feed the assessment into the AI. And if you do feed it into the AI and we interview you, please be able to answer the questions and not go, ChatGPT said.
Okay, I want to add two things to that. Hey, we're talking about career advice now. First one, just anecdotally, when we were doing the ARM project, this was before RISC-V, this was like 12 years ago, we started the project in Fedora, as one does. And as we needed to ramp up hiring to actually support the product, we just tried to pull everybody in the community who was looking for a job or interested in a job in. So working on Fedora can definitely be a gateway into working for Red Hat. But whatever you're doing in open source, please put it on your resume with equal standing with what your formal education is, what your job or career track has been. Like the resumes I've seen that have done that have just impressed the hell out of me. And the ones that don't, they're just like, oh yeah, and here's my GitHub. It's like, yeah, but what did you do in community? Like, what is your persona in the overall space? That's really interesting to me. So while it's unconventional in like the job market as a whole, for the place we occupy, it is valuable and important. So, represent all the things that you are. It'll be good.
Don't be afraid to do something that might be considered cheeky, right? So like if you're in the community and you know somebody on the team and you're applying for something, tell them. Like they'll come tell us when we're like reviewing stuff, so like names don't get lost in the dozens and hundreds of names that come through like some of the open recs. So it's not like, it might be considered cheeky, but don't think of it as cheeky. Think of it as, I don't know, a bit brave. Just be like, yeah, hey, Tamash, I'm going to apply for this. And like Tamash can come tell us, like, oh, I know a guy is applying for this. He's a good guy, whatever.
I have no problem with being cheeky.
These songs are all around me, and these songs be soon become my precious boy. Don't struggle like that, or I will love you more. For it's much too late to get away or turn on the light. The Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight, and I feel like I'm being eaten by 1,000 million shivering furry hoes. And I know that in the morning I will wake up in the shivering cold. And the Spider-Man is always hungry. Keeps me warm. What you doing on your back? Hey, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah, dancing, yeah. She's juicy and she's trouble. She gets it to me good. My woman gives me power, goes right down to my blood. What you doing on your back? Hey, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah, dancing, You should be dancing, yeah. 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 You should be dancing, yeah.
I'm coming back to you, just like before. I've been a lonely boy since I walked out your door. If there's a life for us, I don't know, but I can live like this anymore. The time I spend alone has nothing to give. It's repetition. I'm coming back to you. Repetition. The only thing I can do. I'm coming back to you. This time to stay. If I have learned one thing, is that I can't stay away. The time I spend alone has nothing to give. The life I lead alone has nowhere to live. It's repetition. I'm coming back to you. Repetition. The only thing I can do. And I can still recall how you will hold me. The way you vast away broke so slowly. It's repetition. I'm coming back to you. Repetition. The only thing I can do. Repetition. And we can see this through. It's repetition. I'm coming back to you. I can't get enough of this drug that they call love. I need to feel like I am home again. You came from above, your wings wider than a dove. I need you, I need you. I can wait another minute, I can wait another second to be with you for an eternity. I feel like I am in a daydream. Every moment that I spend with you, won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in a castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky. I can wait another minute, I can wait another second to be with you for an eternity. I feel like I am in a daydream. Every moment that I spend with you, won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in a castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in a castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky.
Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go. Staring at the bottom of a glass, hoping one day you make a dream last. But dreams come slow and they go so fast. You see her when you close your eyes. Maybe one day you'll understand why everything you touch slowly dies. 'Cause you only need the light when it's burning low. Only need the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. Staring at the ceiling in the dark. Same old empty feelings in your heart. 'Cause love comes slow and it goes so fast. Well, you see her when you fall asleep. Never to touch and never to keep. 'Cause you love her so much and